All right, hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier and broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy. We are back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis. There aren't really a lot in the way of shout outs that we have, so I think that we are just going to jump into things here and get started. With just a quick recap. Also, correction, this is our 13th episode of the season. So, good old Lucky 13. Anyway, when last we left off, the crew of the Aegis has been operating somewhat split off from each other. They have arrived in the star system Fomalhaut, a distant, dust-filled system, highly irradiated and sparsely explored, but I've discovered many interesting things. For deep in the debris disk of the star system, the Aegis uncovered a navigable path which took them to a gas giant and a set of moons, one of which seems to have been habitable. Uh, while Lieutenant Shira and Lieutenant Commander Romanov have been left aboard the ship, hiding in the gas giant's planetary, surrounding planetary ring, an away team from the Aegis has gone down to the possibly habitable world where there seems likely to be a very interesting sort of cave system. Uh, this mission is necessary in part because uh, part of their away team includes the crew of an Alpha Centauri based science vessel, specifically led by Kara Sloan, and her two associates, Dr. Natala, a Denobulan scientist and archaeologist, and Tenkayet Fen, an Aurelian explorer. Those three seem to have discovered fragments of an ancient map, one that not simply charts the stars with a high degree of accuracy, but also seems to point to a map of subspace itself, the extra-dimensional sort of plane on which interstellar civilization is able to function the way that it does, allowing for warp drive, faster than light communications. You name it, this is what is responsible for it. By all suggestions, from what they and your Vulcan guide Saral have been able to put together, it is likely that this place holds the last piece of a puzzle several millennia in the making. So those three, Saral, Colonel Sharp, the ship's commanding officer, uh, Lieutenant Commander Patel, the science officer and executive officer, uh, Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lambeth, and one of your Makos, Mora, have come down to the planet in the shuttlecraft in order to locate this final piece. You had set down to land in a canyon, which seemed mostly safe. Unfortunately, an investigation showed you that there might be some sort of trap in the process. What you actually discovered were a set of large scorpion-like arthropods who gave you very fierce battle. You were, however, able to incapacitate them, and it seems as though they were actually effectively livestock that you were fighting. There's an individual, uh, an indigenous sentient life form by the name of Hlastes, who greeted you, albeit with a gun at the ready, or a very crude ballistic weapon, and basically asked what people in Skycraft were doing all the way out here, implying that he's, well, basically telling you he recognizes that you are not from this, you are not of this world, and that this is apparently a common occurrence, um, and kind of begrudgingly interested to talk to you a little bit more. So he's basically given you the go-ahead to guide you down to a settlement or something of the sort. Um, so as you followed him back up in orbit, the Aegis has just been trying to take measures to prepare for whatever the next stage might be. You know that there was another ship in the corridor, or the corridor of safe passage in the system, and thus, while you are not able to detect or discern precisely who it is, you're starting to take some precautionary measures, in particular, readying yourself to call for possible aid from other sources. So, with all that, let's get back to where we were and follow in with. We'll start with a bit of theater of the mind um, as our away team follows the guidance of Plasdes, their indigenous guide on this moon of Fomalhaut. The altogether, I guess, the 8 of you that came in the away team, uh, moving somewhat cautiously, as you don't want to aggravate the scorpion-like creatures whom have now been revived and are otherwise seeming to behave themselves. You basically don't want to aggro them once again, although they seem very well behaved. Going on down the line, let's just take a look in with our crew here. So, in particular, I'm interested in knowing, Captain, how are you doing right now?
Captain's dead. Long live the captain.
Nope, sorry.
Oh no.
I had a phone call. I'm back. Hi.
I was very concerned it was another Patel take the con.
Guys, the mutiny's off. The mutiny's off.
Oh,
Sorry.
dear.
What'd you ask? That?
Oh, I was just asking, how's the captain doing right now?
She was just looking relaxed, and just trying to stay attentive, but there's definitely like a less tension in her shoulders and her steps. Just a trying to restrain the more eager smile that is probably trying to creep on her face. Yeah, she's looking great. Looking great.
Yeah.
She definitely still has like half of her sleeve gone, and like as per Star Trek quota, a shoulder exposed now from the damage to her uniform.
I will say for any of you that take notice, in particular Patel, it seems as though she's taken the melee with these large nightmarish creatures in stride. Although the closer you look, you realize at least the shoulder wound might be starting to bleed a little again.
So, how long have you farmed these? Your herd. Is it just a more of a your own choice or more of a generational thing?
My family has long done so through I would say that I am perhaps the 6th generation to do so.
Sixth generation. That's fairly respectable.
Yes, well, we made the smarter choice it seems in our livelihood. Ever since Kragan has put down more and more of his rule and narrowed the opportunity for so many others, it has been quite a problem. Those of you from away from this world and beyond the skies have not made things easy for us.
I'm sorry about that. We really didn't. We're not used to those sort of herd animals, and certainly we wouldn't have landed in your own property. Not without permission, of course.
Uh, Lasdes kind of just gives you like he brushes out his hand in a very dismissive wave. He's been guiding you into like through a fair-sized cavernous opening, such that all of you could easily walk abreast coming into this place. Well, maybe not Fen while he's got his wings stretched out. I'll say nearer the back. Certainly you, Saral, and possibly you, Dr. Lambeth, could very easily hear him complaining. I was very much enjoying being back in a wider open space. Do we have to go down here?
Not unless you want to be. She pauses and then kind of just swings her head in the direction of Losties. What are your animals called?
These, these are the giant. And the word he uses is difficult for you to make out at first. The translator finally settles on the nearest analog. These are a giant scorpion.
Unless you want to be friends or perhaps food for the giant scorpions. I mean, certainly I cannot make the choice for you.
Oh. Fenn's wings will rustle and contract. Yeah. Well, as the colonel's a bit more talkative near the front, what would the rest of you be up to here? Patel, Saral, Lambeth, Mora, any of you in particular want to chime in with anything you might have going on?
I can't immediately think of anything.
Yeah, I think generally just observing like what's going on around here.
I got one thing. I'm just going to maintain a security overwatch on the area just in case there's I mean, I'm pretty sure we're safe, but I'm I'm keeping my eyes open
Yeah.
just in case there's any more unknowns.
Yeah. I will say for your part, Mora, Saral, both of you, as as observant as you are stressing that you are being right now, um, it would seem as though the pathway you are on is fairly well trodden. It is actually not even that much of a strain as you get deeper into the caves to see. I mean, I imagine you would probably have popped out the flashlights at a certain point, but you notice that the way that the rocks are arrayed, there appears to be some reflective materials here, thus creating a very slight ambient, basically an ambience that doesn't render this place wholly pitch black. Um, it would be hard to see without the flashlights, but not necessarily impossible. Like there's almost that just enough lighting that you could make out faces and features and everything. Think of basically the sort of lighting that a television show will do at night to establish that, oh yeah, it might be dark, but you can still somehow make out fairly well the different actors' faces and such.
Is it just the time of day or like a diffusion effect from the nebula?
Well, no, you guys are actually going into a cave now, so this is
Oh, right.
properly
Derp.
underground. I am sorry, I ought to have been more descriptive there. Yeah. For its part, actually, the view of back when you were out on the planet, the view from Fomalhaut was mostly, it was pretty clear. I mean, the atmosphere seems to filter out at least some of the light, or at least some of the coloring from the light of the star. And I think that Fomalhaut itself is a main sequence A star. So I think that comes as, it would come off across as more of a bluish white. For its size, I want to say more white than blue, but I'm a little shy on that. Actually, Ben, I know that you have astronomy as a bit of a side hobby there. Offhand, main sequence A, uh, would that be like a whiter star, or was that more
Yeah, I
blue?
don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. That's what I recall here. So I think that bearing in mind my grasp of the light spectrum and how that would filter things out might be a little messed up here, but I think that it would mostly filter out any of the blue light coming off of that, so it would mostly appear white in the system. But that said, uh, so far as like any gas cloud coming through this, the or rather the atmosphere seems to filter out at least some of the coloration from that, so it may not be the clearest look, but it's still very bright. You could sparsely tell that you weren't like on a desert on Earth in that sense. It's also about as dry and hot. But that's outside of the cave system. Now you are in a place that is relatively dark, but because of the reflective ambience of the cave system, between that and flashlights that you would have brought with you as part of your plan to descend into a cave system, like just some of the spelunking gear, I'd be perfectly willing to rule that you had flashlights on you.
Well,
Yep.
definitely, if I need one, I'll use it.
Yeah, exactly. Though I'll use some of my own used to cavernous areas like ships and stations. I'll sort of navigated by sound for a while before realizing, because I'm a little slow on the uptake right now. But then finally pull out the flashlight.
You know that it's a little off when you have the flashlight pointed the wrong direction for a start,
Yeah.
and are only clumsily able to turn it around. Also, I'm going to take advantage of those quite loose spins, check my posture, and stretch a little bit. Ah, there we go. That feels good. All right, so, uh, uh, the sounds reverberating off the cave, besides your own steps, are the heavy skittering of the giant scorpions that surround you. Now that you aren't necessarily aggroed to them, or that they've been soothed by whatever process Helastes used, or whatever sort of training, they seem like perfectly polite here. At the very least, they don't seem to be an immediate threat. Unless any of you have particular things that you would want to say or do, then say like probably the next 15 minutes or so of walking will take you down a very well trodden path in the cave. It will get slightly smaller at times, such to where you need to maybe take more of an echeloned approach in order to navigate easily. So condensing a bit more down into a column. It's nothing that necessarily. It's not going to be so terribly claustrophobic as well, because the path is still wide enough that the livestock, as it were, is able to traverse the way.
How many feet downward do we end up going after 15 minutes? Or is it just a shallow but large area?
I'd say that it's a very gentle incline, but the path is taking you sort of into a mountain system. Uh, Now it might start to wind at a certain point, and as that does, the cavern begins to spiral down a little steeper, but it's never so much that you are at serious risk of slipping or losing your footing.
Mm.
So I couldn't give you a precise sense, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like you go to such a depth where things like get especially hot or thick in the air, or that there's much of a change in pressure. Just enough to uh, give you a sense that you have descended a little bit into the earth.
All right.
So, as some time elapses and you notice near the end of this path that there's a growing sort of gentle ambient light, Plasdes says, "Well, I must say that I can promise you here no harm will come to you, but I need to confer with others in order to figure out exactly what we're going to do about you and, well, how to
I request at least not for Kragan or any of his lot to be notified of us of our presence. We don't. We're not working for him, and if in fact he seems like the kind of person, from what it sounds like, wouldn't take kindly to unexpected guests that are also deciding to visit.
Yeah.
Seems like a very selfish guy.
Plasdes will stop a moment and furrow his brows in your direction. Uh, and not, we're certainly not going to we're certainly not telling Kragan anything. Not if
Excellent.
And as you wind through the path, you notice that the cavern opens up quite considerably, and you get the view of a fairly large and somewhat well illuminated village. It's still like a very gentle lighting. It's, say, not so bright as your normal city at night. But it does seem that the the setting is at once rustic, but also a little more. Uh, it's a weird combination of sort of a very quaint little village, something like some sort of industrial setup, and well, it's hard to quite describe the aesthetic that being in the caves introduces. From your view here, the first thing this might remind you of in some ways was your trip to the one Nausicaan station um, some months back between Earth and Tellar Prime, or like right on the border between the two spaces. That mining colony, aside from the prefab structures, had also uh, like carved out some buildings uh, from the existing like rock face here. It seems as though this little settlement village, you're not entirely sure how to go about listing it, does seem to have built itself partly into this, although it seems as though they have other building materials that you wouldn't have guessed from the surface of the planet. Um, there appear to be a number of pens and other areas with arthropods of varying sizes, scents wafted from uh, I wouldn't say chimneys necessarily. They don't have anything going out quite that way, but there are scents of like wafting meat and other like cooked foods that kind of give a slight hint to the chamber. You also notice walking along the way there do seem to be some flows of water from some sort of springs that abound the area, and even some mossy textures, and even a few like fungal outcroppings. This cave is remarkably filled with life, and indeed there do seem to be some machinery at work, some of them seemingly more advanced than others. Like you may notice that the springs that are at work, some of them do engage with like water wheels that appear to be moving some items, but other technology would suggest something marginally more advanced. I mean, there do appear to be a few like illuminated streetlights of some sort, suggesting they have some basic grasp of electrical power. So that's it's a deep curiosity and a set of contradictions for this like small settlement here.
Nice place.
It suffices.
So, where would you like us to hold up until you discuss things?
They will wait in the main square. They will ask. While you may keep your weapons, you'll keep them out of your hands or holstered away.
Of course.
So, Lazdes will start walking along further around the path. There will actually be a couple of his kind near a juncture of the path where there are like some rocks for them to sit against or conceivably to be able to take cover. When they see you coming, there's a look as near as you can parse out of puzzlement. Lazdes will basically wave and say, these bunch, they come with me. Get the record keeper and alert some of the other town guard. We have discussions to engage. There's a few moments where they look among themselves. One of them is going to rush down, and the other will stay watchful. Much like Lazdes, there are very improvised sort of ballistic weapons in their possession. You'd guess it's like somewhere in the line in terms of something like the sort of gas-powered weapon that would have been present somewhere between the first of the great world wars on Earth. Not something that can be fired terribly quickly and probably has a bit of lag time in the reloading. So that is to say, you have an advantage over them if there were need to confront. But they seem to have numbers down here. They also, a ballistic weapon like that can still be quite devastating. Hopefully, however, it will not come to that. So, you are eventually guided down into sort of like a main square type area. There are several of the inhabitants of this moon of Filmelhout that regard you, and there are others that are gathering just outside of what appears to be one of the larger buildings. Lazdes is among them, and they're in the midst of quite excited discussion.
Well, it seems like we have some time. Doctors, I'm sure you can keep yourselves distracted. Saral, Mora, can you make sure that they are safe while doing so? Patel, Dr. Lambeth, if you can come over here for a minute and talk to you.
Yeah, sure thing. Is that a problem?
She'll just smile and say, it's not a big deal. And she just comes over to sit down. There's like a nice little ledge or something that she can sit on.
Yeah, there's a good sized rock that you can sit against. As you do, murmurs of the sacred rock. Now you're good.
Yeah, she'll just sit down, take a deep breath. Wow. Any of them looking over in this direction? She says to Patel and Dr. Lambeth.
Are any of them looking over in this direction?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, couple.
Man, I guess I gotta be a little. No, it's just not the locals, the doctors.
Oh, no, they seem to have their attention elsewhere. Sloane might be eyeing you just for a moment, but I think that she's pondering her next move. So
Yeah, they're occupied for the moment.
Good, because I can't feel my hands. Or most of myself.
All right. Well, there's no need to try and keep up a show of it. Let's get you checked out. You need to come to me ASAP with these kind of things.
No, we were kind of busy with new arrivals and everything, and it wasn't as bad before, but it's certainly going through the system now.
All right. Well, let's. Did one of them got you, right?
Twice. She gestures to her, kind of like limply lifts her arm and then kind of just nudges with her shoulder.
Right. Let's. First things first. I'll have a quick look at the wounds and see if they're like looking super awful or anything like that. And then just do.
Am I going to disturb you out here?
General scans.
Huh? What was that?
Oh, Brian, we're just picking up a little bit of whatever's off mic there.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Just making sure
Okay.
we weren't cutting you off.
No, I'm somewhere else visiting friends and relatives, so I'm amazed I'm here.
Yeah. Should go over telling you. She like pauses for a moment. Right, you. Is something going on with you and the archaeologist?
Patel is thoroughly confused by the question. He is completely oblivious to any.
Try not to change the subject, please.
No, just like as this is going, this might be a good moment, Lambeth, to pull a McCoy from the reboot films and just have a scanner in like Sharp's face or something like that.
Yeah.
Give him fat tongue.
I'm probably like examining the wounds with his eyes and just like waving a scanner in front of the face to gather some readings while he's having a look at it.
Yeah.
I can see. I'm not blind, Doctor.
No, I can see that. I mean, you're not blind yet. Let's start with that. You're saying numbness in your limbs, extremities mostly.
Muscles mostly, extremities.
Muscles.
I can't entirely close my hand, as you can see, as she like just sort of tries to close her hand a little bit, and it probably just like twitches.
Just the right or left or both?
I can move like 2 fingers on my left.
All right. Well, that's a start. Let me know when you can't move any of the ones on your left. That might give me an idea how swiftly this thing is progressing. So I'll just, gonna do some medicine rolls, some scans, figure out what's going on.
Copy that. While they continue their conversation, I will ask you to give me, let's call this a reason plus medicine scan, and I will ask, this will be a difficulty of, actually a difficulty of 1 for you, Doctor.
Okay. Emergency medicine focus.
Well, I don't know if it's that dire,
that
but
apply?
I will allow it to apply.
Okay.
Oof.
Well, that is no successes right there. And yeah, you
You have 1 hour to live.
yeah. Well, at the moment I can't see anything
I'll give,
directly wrong with you other than obviously the wounds.
yeah. I'll give you this much, Doctor. You can tell that there might be some signs from the sensor scan that um, Sharp may have had brief exposure to, or like partial exposure to the venom that those scorpions secrete, but you can't you are struggling to discern exactly what the effects will be with her physiology. This is something that has evolved on a completely different planet from anything that, or like from you and from humans in general. And so many years of evolution, you don't know how exactly this is going to take an effect, whether it's precisely a reaction to the venom as it conventionally functions, whether the dosage affects things, whether even there's like an allergic effect or something like that. It's the sort of thing that you feel like you would need more time to let play out. That being said, like the shoulder wound does appear to be
Yeah,
bleeding a
right.
bit again.
So, yeah, right. First things first, let's patch up wounds again. Let's make sure that's all good. We don't want you dying of blood loss while we're trying to figure out the venom thing.
This isn't much of blood loss, she says.
Yeah, it'll give me something to do while I try and figure out the venom thing. Because honestly, I've got not much of a clue. I don't know how this species works. I'm guessing I probably need a sample of their venom from something other than you. If I wanted to try and figure out whether this is like an allergic reaction to it or something intentional, we might need to talk to the people here. I don't know if they know that their livestock have venomous things.
They didn't mention them being venomous. Just I ain't so bad as a poison. I've felt worse before, but just it's getting a little impeding.
Yeah. Not being able to close your fists is more than a little impeding when you're, we're in the middle of a hostile area and you might need your weapon. Right. Potentially hostile, I guess. I don't know. It's being able to use your hands is pretty important in our line of work.
That's definitely true. And it's not that it can't completely close, just it takes a lot of force, she says. It grits her teeth and just slowly closes.
Yeah, I get it. No need to try. I understand the point.
And you, she looks over to Vitel, you didn't answer my question.
I don't know what you're talking about, Captain.
The smiles, the glances over. She certainly postures in a certain fashion that makes she wants you to look. I'm just wanting to know if it was something that you were reciprocating or pursuing.
I mean, doesn't she do that with everyone?
It's a fact of Denobian culture. They are a very friendly people, Captain.
I've had a few words with Denoblins before. She smiles. And that's going a step more than just being friendly.
And he gets his typical Patel nervousness going on. No, there is nothing going on. At least not from my side, Captain.
Is it something you are fine with?
I was, until this conversation, not something I had even noticed.
Are you fine with it?
I'll have a conversation with the doctor now that you've brought this up. And I'm referring to the Denobian doctor, not...
Yes, okay. Well, I'm a little busy at the moment.
Our doctor.
Oh, just
I know I do. I can technically provide counselling services if you need it. I'm not the best on the romantic issues.
Oh, that would be a hilarious scene, though. But no.
There's nothing wrong to the... I hope it's not anything offensive for you.
Oh, no, not at all. I just wouldn't want the doctor to get the wrong impression. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. It's not something that I think about, Captain.
Fair enough. Just making sure that I wasn't that certainly I didn't interfere in any sort of capacity with whatever's going on there.
No, all good. Patel's like nervous, but he's like honest nervous. You know, he's not like disturbed by what he's talking about. It's just that awkwardness of something he's not used to talking about, I guess.
She pauses. Is this your first time being flirted before, Kieran?
Oh no, it's happened.
Right, well, you
several
two
times.
can continue this conversation on your own. I'm going to head off, and obviously I can't do
I
any more.
imagine. I thought
right
you were
now,
patching me
so-
up. Was all that she's just talking while you're patching her up. That's pretty much what's going on.
Do we need to have the talk with Patel?
Patel is, if I haven't broadcast that enough, Patel I think is very ace.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Oh, I could see that at this point, at least as far as Lambert's part goes, like quickest application of the dermal regenerator possible. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
just
Yep. You're good. Go.
keep an eye. Tell me if you lose feeling anywhere else, and I'll be back. Bye, and just zooms off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homer
And
says-
I do have a thing I should do. I do need to talk to them about their venomous animals.
I mean, they did mention that they are venomous.
Yeah. They use it in order to feed.
Okay. So let's see. Yeah. So Lambeth, you Homer Simpson out of that situation, just backing straight through the cliff face, and then popping back out at a far enough distance to go and do what you needed to do. Sharp, Patel, anything else you wanted to converse about here, or did you have anything else you wanted to say like in this matter? Just before we go around.
Not
everyone
on
else?
my end. How about you?
Is Sharp like indicating that this venom is like having any sort of mental effect, or is she just like, is it purely physical?
That there she did say that it was like not bad of a venom, so and she does look a little sedated, but not any sort of like obviously high as fuck or anything like that.
She's way too relaxed for her normal state. I mean,
Yeah.
She's more relaxed than professional, but not to the point of being an obstacle.
So on the spectrum of default Space Marine to that time in the quarters when you felt like you could have gotten a contact high while nothing was going on that spectrum, I'd say I think it'd be fair to say that she's maybe like a third of the way towards the more relaxed fit. Maybe
like a fourth.
Yeah. So
not full third, like a fourth.
Not full rigid parade detail, but noticeable.
But Patel's done the trip babysitter before, so I guess he just pulls out a granola bar from his science kit and offers it to the captain. Will this help, Captain?
I don't have the munchies, Kieran, but
okay. Well, I don't know how these things work, but it's there if you need it.
He just gets also stung by the scorpion. I'm going in with you.
I appreciate it. But how about you hold it for me?
Yeah, that's fine.
She just smiles at that. But if you can be a bit of a wingman here and try to help me hide some of these discomforts for a little bit until it gets out of my system, or the doctor figures out a way of getting on the system.
And what better wingman than a first officer?
She nods.
Okay.
Okay. So while that's going on, yes, Lambeth, I know you want to touch base with the indigenous inhabitants in order to check on that. Before we go around to you, I did want to check in with Saral and Mora. First, Saral, was there anything that you'd be interested in, or do you want to wait for another conversation before?
Well, first of all, being given the command that he's supposed to watch the other people that they don't get hurt. It's like he feels like slapped in the face. It's like, what do you mean I need to watch people? People need to watch me, goddammit. But then he probably just starts like a general conversation about what's going on here, like the machinery and the evolutionary aspects of living in this system. Makes sense that they're underground, etc. Kind of like observance.
I gotcha. I take it that you are more closely examining the like either elements of the machinery or how they've constructed their dwellings, anything of the sort.
I mean, I'm assuming we're only observing, cause they are kinda watchful. I don't know how
Yeah.
much free reign are we given here.
Uh, Basically, they are having you like just stand around in this sort of main town square, or the main square of this little underground village. It would be such that, like, they've told you basically to put away your weapons. You could probably get away with running a scan if you wanted to, or if you like. Otherwise, it is just what you can pick up with the Mark One eyeball, basically. So you could you could try to run a scan. You could try to gain some insight just from what you are examining here. Uh, Combination of
Hmm.
perception and intuition.
Would probably start with just having a normal conversation about especially the technology aspects that we're witnessing here, because that's like where Sorel's main interests lie. But as the discussion kind of goes on, I will just like instinctively at some point pull out the scanner and just scan.
Copy that. I'll give you a reason and insight roll for that. Uh, or no, reason and science rather, because you need a discipline and an attribute uh, for Star Trek Adventures.
For difficulty, I'd probably need a question, right?
Uh, I think that would be proper.
What am I trying to look at?
I,
Um,
I gathered you were more focused on the technological aspects.
yeah, I think my main interest would be, is the technology we see here and can pick up with the scanner appropriate for the level of uh, society we are observing? Or is there like technology that's clearly out of the scope of what they are presenting here? Or other peculiarities? But that would be like the main question I had in mind.
Yeah, fair enough.
So what would be the difficulty for that?
I'll give you a difficult. I will make this a difficulty one. You still need to give you the opportunity to earn some momentum of that, and you are using your special tricorder, so you've got the extra help.
Always.
Okay, that is 3 successes, so that will give you an extra 2. That will allow you to draw 2 points of momentum.
Excellent.
From what you can piece together, there is a very interesting sort of hybrid system going on here. It seems that first and foremost, the main technological draw here appears to be geothermal in nature. The design appears to be fairly sturdy and slightly more advanced than you would expect, but not out of the reach of a fairly well industrialized society. It seems less likely that these people could have built something like this exactly on their own, but from the sound of things, this is just like a small satellite settlement from a broader population, and this could just be effectively the equivalent of a rural area. You touch down in like a the equivalent of an American Midwestern farm, whereas like there's a greater city some ways off. Uh, Ship frickin' set down in the cornfields where uh, are like not far from the giant scorpion pasture.
Pretty much.
Um, and also, I don't know if that's like in the scope of the question, but like, how do I phrase this? Like if also like if the materials make sense, or if there's maybe materials that are scavenged from like an older civilization, like something that would be so far out of the scope of what they are. Like for example, if I ever found like duranium pieces, like that's used in Starfleet ships, that even if this is a rural town, this isn't happening anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, so nothing exactly here seems scavenged from anything that would necessarily beyond what you can infer as like the civilization. Like there's no starship scrap here basically. But the nature of the vents and the way that like there are signs of elements of engineering here that given like these caverns are pretty densely packed with a lot of minerals that would give you difficulties in terms of scanning. You knew this from the initial trip in, and even when Patel was taking scans from orbit. So there are basic forms of the ore that would constitute duranium. There's a lot of iron, probably some magnesite, some kelbonite. A lot of the materials here are extremely difficult to delve through if you aren't like if you haven't reached industrial levels of like a just nigh pre-warp level, or even the ores that would typically be simple enough to work with. They require very extensive drilling and like industrial extraction technology, industrial scale extraction technology. So the way that the vents in particular seem set up and how the cave system is set up, it is a freak incident or perhaps conversely miracle of nature that the layout is such that it is, and it's something about it seems very convenient.
So maybe the whole the cave system is some engineering feat.
A distant possibility, but a possibility nonetheless.
Huh. What are the other doctors observing? Because they have more experience with like maybe the immediate question of what the trail that we've been following.
Well, they are mostly playing it relatively cool. I would say that Natala seems particularly interested in some of the rock layering near the square and is like examining. She's examining some of the the composition of like the any like bits of dust or dirt on the ground such that she can make it out. Probably also taking the occasional glance around the different buildings, near as you can tell. Sloane and Fen both appear to be playing it pretty close to the chest. You can't discern what they are looking at or what they're trying to figure out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, anything else you'd want to do, Sorrel?
I don't think so. I think that takes up like the couple of minutes that the captain's getting patched up.
Okay. Mora, are you just staying on Overwatch for now?
Yeah, I would like to make an observation roll. I'm looking around and seeing if anything jumps out at me. I am obviously looking from a security point of view because, we got the captain who's been injured and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to make sure that I have that covered.
Yeah. I'll just give you from the looks of things here, Mora, that It looks as though while the inhabitants are a bit wary of you, there's more a mix of curiosity. Oops, I
Okay.
didn't mean to give that to myself. I'll just recall all of that and deal it back. Um, there is more a sentiment of, there's just a bit of general confusion right now, and it seems as though, like, the most animated part of this conversation appears to be with Hlasti and um, the other sort of leads of in this settlement. Um, so they will be shaping kind of what happens next or how they react. Though some of
Okay, well then,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, Lambeth is making his way over there, so that may also shape what happens next with the encounter. Um,
I'll put myself, if I guess Kieran is going over to talk to them. Is that what you said, or is it
no,
Doc?
no, the doctor, Danny.
Lambeth.
Yeah,
I'll put myself behind him, but within range, just so I can kind of listen to the conversation, and two, if anything goes weird, then I'm within reactionary range.
copy that. Um, Speaking of listening in on conversations, Danny, you are closing the distance now between yourself and the these village elders, or like the leadership here, and Lasdes. Um, do you want to, as you approach, do you want to try and like listen in a little bit in the conversation, or would you simply prefer to just, make yourself known politely and try to seek the help that you cannot currently provide?
Yeah. Quickly looking at these elders, what kind of vibes do they give off? Are they like posh? Are they posh people, or like more working class kind of elders who've earned the respect of their people, or do they seem to be more like entitled
That's a good question,
folks?
and given your background with all of this, Dr. Lambeth, I'll give you that they very much seem to be like a generally very weathered bunch. Much as Lasdis's like appearance and like the material of his clothing, everything seems fairly rough but hardy. All of them seem to do so as well. Um, there is perhaps one figure among the bunch who seems marginally less, like, rather, perhaps the better way to put it, someone who seems to have a very slighter air of finery about him, or isn't quite as weathered.
Like
He's
less calloused hands,
Yeah,
like hasn't done as much work.
not as much recently at the very least, and they appear to also be uh, a slightly older version. At least that is your guess. They definitely appear to be like slightly worse for wear in some ways. The tendrils that abound from their chin of the inhabitants, they are slightly like curled inwards, and there's perhaps signs of some slight wrinkling or um, discoloration beneath the skin. So these could suggest age here of a sort. This figure doesn't, although they don't have that same type of weathering from the manual labor that others might have conducted. Um, First off, that individual seems fairly quiet but measured when voicing something. There is not a pompous air about him from what
Yeah,
you
okay.
observe in the conversation.
And it's not like that person's in charge or anything like that. They're one of many.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I won't try to listen in. but like I'll just kind of approach them and like make my presence obvious without interrupting their conversation. Like just make sure my footsteps are reasonably loud, and kind of raise my hands like I'm trying to get their attention. I think, and if they want to keep having a conversation while I'm doing that, I'll listen. But otherwise,
Yeah.
like I don't want to interrupt them, but I want to make it clear that I'm coming to interrupt them.
You're not spying them.
Yeah.
Yep. Lassis is going to break off as he will take notice of your approach. Oh. Yes, Skycrafter, what do you want?
Yeah. Sorry for the interruptions. I need to. One of my crew got stung by one of your livestock. So venom, some kind of like a numbing poison. Could you give me a bit more information on how that works, or if you've got a local remedy?
You believe what signs do they show of this?
Numbing mostly in the hands. It's hard to hard to form a fist. Just a lack of feeling in both arms in general, one slightly more than the other.
Yeah,
Wounds aren't too bad, but
he'll reach into like a part of the like tunic type shirt that he has and reach out, producing a couple very small vials. Uh, the very sort of deep, like in the relative lighting, there is it is a fairly dark liquid. Uh, and see to it that uh, your affected your affected one, they consume half of this vial. They do it slowly too. The venom that our giant scorpion carry, they incapacitate. It is meant to incapacitate its prey, but it does not do so to kill, only to sedate for a prolonged period of time. Your affected person would probably still be fine, but circumstances as they are, it is probably better they keep their wits about them.
yeah,
We
thank you.
we distill some of the venom and have found ways to use remedies. This mixes with one of the mosses that we regularly farm. This should provide an adequate wake up, shall we say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm always interested in this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a man of medicine myself. I like my remedies and my concoctions. Is there out of curiosity, like what's the general? How long does it take for this kind of effect to wear off naturally? The numbness, incapacitation. Does this venom usually? Is it usually days, few hours? I just want to know more about this place.
It will mostly not last the day unless a high dose has been received.
Or the person's got a particularly weak constitution. Right.
Very good.
Oh, I'm Danny, by the way. I don't know if we've done proper introductions.
We have not, Danny. He'll produce another larger bottle for someone that appreciates concoctions.
I mean, I'm a traveller. I know there's a lot I can learn from people like you. So I very kindly appreciate the gesture. I'll see if I can find something to teach you in return.
That exchange, that mentality, that will do you well here. We shall be finished here in a moment, so administer that to your the smaller vial to your captain. We shall be with you shortly.
Thank you. So you noticed then?
I'm sorry, my audio cut out for a moment. What was the question?
He goes, oh, so you noticed then? Just because he said captain specifically. I don't know if that was a slip of the tongue from the GM or if it's like these people can tell when
Oh
people
no,
are under those effects.
that was actually purely a GM slip there.
Okay.
Yeah. It is not canon for for them to assign the specific role. That is just the GM not thinking carefully
Yeah,
about his moves.
that's fine. All right.
He's
Thank you very
probably
much.
Sharp has at least been pegged as a leader, I would expect, though. That would have been the better phrase.
What I was asking was whether they'd, because Lambeth, Danny avoided mentioning who was affected, and I was just wondering if they'd figured out who it was without us saying anything.
Sharp did when
Sharp took wounds.
Yeah, and it was clear that she'd taken some wounds. I think that at least that much was established, and she'd talked with Hlazdes, so he would have noticed she was a bit cut up. So. Yeah.
I'll go back and offer keep one vial keep the larger vial for myself for analysis later on. We've got the smaller vial; it was half of that, so I'll offer that up to the captain. If you don't trust them, I can run some scans, but they seem like all right folks, and you want to get half this down you nice and slow. That should soothe you right up. I can run tests on the remaining half later and see what I can learn from them.
She just nods and does as prescribed.
Okay, I'll just give you that. You down that. In a few minutes, there's
Actually, he does need to mention something else.
Okay.
They're a resourceful folk. One of them offered me something extra as a gift. I need to find something to return the favour. We haven't got any kind of policy on not. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what knowledge we have that they might want that's not going to cause any problems. I mean, I'm thinking mostly medical stuff, but it might be some remedies from either recreational stuff or
let's not create an opium war here, Doctor. She smiles. But something small, something that might be helpful, but not outright change society.
Yeah.
If only there were some sort of general.
I'll have a think.
If only there was some kind of general order to instruct you on the guidance of what to introduce to, so far as you know, non-warp capable civilizations.
And Sharp will say, "I'll think of a few suggestions, and I can help peruse through that."
Yeah, all right. I'll look up a few things.
Yeah. Just imagine there's like the primer for the prime directive that goes out at some point, and then a second primer only for captains. How to get around that?
When to ignore this? Often.
Like half of Captain Picard's speeches are like why prime directive should not apply in this case.
It's the prime directive primer.
Yeah. You were saying about the anti-venom.
The manual.
Zach, when I started downing it.
Oh, at first you don't notice much, but I think it starts with an interesting sensation of the tongue, or like on your tongue and kind of under it. You begin to feel a very slight pep, and with that, the kind of pins and needles feelings in your fingers as you feel that they are now marginally easier to move.
She just slowly flexes her fingers one at a time consistently until she's that's most 100% gone or 99% gone. Just helping out circulate.
Yep.
Yeah. And we just wait for the elders to finish discussing.
Yep. They do indeed proceed over to you as your feeling is coming back and you're starting to feel greater comfort. The scientists from the Lily will gather around, and all of you will have similar opportunity. Lazdes will be at the lead um, of the group, and he will say, "Let's see. We have decided that you are welcome here, and that the incident with the scorpions was a misunderstanding. For compensation, we will not ask for that in this case. We know not exactly why, why else. Well, we would agree as well that if you are not of the persuasion to inform Kragan, then we are not going to relay that information to him as well. Indeed, we have very little reason to compensate, well, rather, inform to that despot.
Just nods. Thank you.
I must ask, more so on their behalf, and so that you may state it clearly, why are you here?
She just looks over to Patel.
Buckle up, kids. That's where it gets complicated.
We detected the presence of other skyship folk on this planet. He improvises wildly and looks to the captain nervously.
We were also pursuing a map that has been dotting the sky, and it led us to this world. As we are scientists and explorers, and we were wishing to better understand these relics of ancestors and history.
Lazis will turn momentarily to the seemingly elderly member of the inhabitants. Oh, it almost sounds like the word of perhaps the place of record. Back in the earliest stretches of Calamy's history.
Calamies, that is your people?
Lazdes will turn back to you. Yes, yes. It is the name we have borne since long before we took to the ground and before the first visit of the Skycraft, or those from beyond. In truth, the first visit from one who was from beyond was not, they did not require the craft to come here.
I see. Perhaps you can elaborate on that?
He turns back to the older one. Yes, the first visitor. They came from beyond, as they explained, across the many lands of our world, and they told us that they had been preventing calamities from striking this world but that they could do so no longer. Their attention could not stay focused. Thus they offered to give those that were willing refuge. Some took it, some did not. Those that were brought here, he assured us he could do so, for he was in possession of a great machine. This great machine of his, he says, if this were RPG text, great machine would be capitalized here.
Yeah, it'd be in brackets.
Yes. It was said that he could rework the very nature of the earth, the foundations of it itself. He carved from these mountains and from places around the planet refuges such as the one that we live in now. And he reshaped the world in ways that would allow our people to survive, creating the great heat vents. He showed the people how to survive in these circumstances, and he gave us the place of record, one that would allow us to maintain a track of our own civilization, but to show us where we were in relation to others. One day, perhaps even from that place of record, we might find them, if we were willing and if we were worthy. Since that time, calamity struck the surface, and the world has been great and barren, but we have survived. Nonetheless, we went a very long time without any visitors. It was not since a generation ago that they came. Yes. The other sky... that was when the skycraft began showing up.
We certainly didn't wish to enforce any unfortunate omen onto your people.
You cannot... we can see that your intentions, at least thus far, do not bear that way. Unfortunately, those of your most the other visitors, they have been a great problem for us. They have they came from the skies, from the great beyond, and they helped draw out elements like Kragan, who has now taken power for himself. He controls the largest of our settlements and the place of record. He has built a great base there, and he loots and plunders places, even destroyed some outright, and put the people to work on his own projects. I believe he wishes to conquer not only all of the Calamese, but perhaps one day to turn his eyes to the skies beyond and assail the greater worlds beyond.
Could you describe Kragan and his men? What do they look like?
Kragan... he is very much Calamese like us. Though he is not that in temperament. Whereas we have spent our time trying to build this life and have survived many generations in harmony. His is a mind driven by something harder, by something more mechanical that drives the industries we built to survive, and instead turns it towards destruction, towards conquest.
But you made mention that the Skycraft have obviously come before us. What people come from those ships? Those craft?
I have never met them properly before, but I know only that, aside from the shapes I have seen in the sky, there have been plenty stories of what they have done. For Kragan, his soldiers, they may be Calamese, but his weapons, they are much like the ones that you have used, sending balls and beams of light into rock that are capable of sending people to stumble, or capable of outright setting buildings aflame, collapsing caverns. They are more powerful and more effective than what we carry.
She'll just nod. I'm sorry. Sorry you had to suffer such an oppressive threat.
As long as they carry these weapons, we cannot return to the place of record. We cannot be safe from their threat. And we certainly cannot show you anything of this map you are talking about, if it does indeed exist there.
Can you give us direction upon where the Hall of Records, and you said that the base that they established is on top of it?
We could indeed take you to the place of record. I would guide you there myself. However, what you ask is not a simple task, and comes to great risk for myself and my people. We would need something in return.
I'm listening.
Well, clearly, those from the skies are capable of bringing many wonders and terrors. Kragan's benefactor has brought him numerous weapons of great quality and capability. You come here saying that you are here in a spirit of friendship, but you are also well armed. Well, as we see it, you are the only ones that can help us, that could hope to intervene here. Thus, we must implore you, if you can, we need you to help us defeat Kragan once and for all, to upset this balance so that harmony might return. If there are too few among you for that, perhaps you can at least help us help ourselves. Certainly, where you come from, you must have more of those weapons.
She takes that long breath. She takes like a slow, long breath through her nose. Oh God, this is sounding way too familiar for Sharp.
You're wanting some more scorpion venom? Everything's better with more scorpion venom.
I would need.
I mean, we do still have a half dose of the potion.
She thinks for a moment. These devices, she slowly but gently pulls it out and kind of just palms it, and sort of like demonstrating what she's saying. These devices, much like your own, are something that require great responsibility, especially given how destructive they are. And what you're asking is something that any good leader needs to decide, needs to consider with grave weight. I'd like to assess the level of threat that Kragan has brought before giving any hard answers on that. I might be able to help personally. My crew might be able to help personally, or it might be other solutions. But I cannot make promises at the moment.
What other solutions could there possibly be? As long as the Skycraft continue to come and help Kragan, and continue to supply him, he can exert a great influence over us. And no one place of the Calamese is it safe.
How about a means of preventing the calamities of being interfered by the Skycraft for a very long time?
You mean to potentially stop Skycraft from coming to support Kragan?
And or interfere with the calamities further once we leave.
I will
If
ask.
we handle... go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that he might be intrigued by that, but I think a persuasion roll would be good here, and this will be a roll off against Hlasdes here. So this would be let's see. Presence and command would probably be the best one here. This would go against his reason and command because he is trying to he is in a particular mode of thinking, and you are attempting to dissuade him of or you are trying to overcome that. So he will roll.
I'm going to use my value of living through one life. I realize what I missed. To get 2 successes.
Okay.
Get critical, rather. I also, if you guys are fine with it, can I spend momentum?
Go for it.
Well, he's going to be very easy to persuade here, so the auto crit will automatically get that for you, and you know, in this case, you just
I have diplomacy too. So.
Yep. So that works. So that is a total of 6 successes on the board. 4 that you rolled, and the 2 that you gained from the auto crit. So you're pretty much taking all of that back in terms of momentum, which means 3 points will go into your pool, and you have another 3 to buy an advantage, obtain information, anything that you want to do kind of before the scene ends.
I'd like to obtain information of gain descriptors of what the weapons look like or the ship. I want to see who exactly has been supplying Kragan, whether it's Andorians, Vulcans, freaking Klingon, Kazinti. Who's giving them shit?
I mean, what colors do the phaser weapons have? Star Trek is conveniently color coded.
If there's any emblem they've seen on the ships.
No. I've seen the shape. I've seen the shapes in general, but they often move too fast. Yours is the first I've encountered up close, but if you could stop those, then that may help us be able to finally resist Kragan, if not to fully defeat him. Indeed, with the craft that fly to him, such I can tell, it is not easy to look up into the bright sky, but when I do see it, I see those same deep reds as those that you brought here. But if you
just size Vulcans.
Fucking Vulcans.
Oh, Vulcans. These are the creatures you say aid in our oppression. We shall not let these Vulcans intrude here any further.
She raised a hand. Much like the Khaleesi, there are many types of people, and certainly ones who are more opportunistic than others, selfish than others, and as empathic as others. These are simply ones that have some sort of greater desire here. But they are not all Vulcans are like this.
I see. I suppose you came in this craft, so I do not mean to give offense. Would you be Vulcans? Or perhaps...
My friend here is Vulcan, and quite more amenable than likely the ones who sold such weapons, gesturing to Searle. But one, two, three, four. Four of us are humans, and a Denoblian. I cannot speak right now out of character.
It's just the venom.
Yeah, Denoblian. And then one that is Aurelian?
Yes.
They're getting like major culture shock here.
Yeah.
There are many people in the sky.
Yes, a very strange array, but if you can keep those who would mean to take advantage of us and support the likes of Kragan, then we will support you. I can show you the way if you will promise us that.
We'll do everything we can in our capacity.
He'll nod. Very well then. See to it that your fingers will move properly. We do not waste any time.
I can move just fine. As long as everybody else is ready. So the rest of the group.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, I can be ready.
Though if you can give me a few minutes, I wish to communicate to my own skyship in the sky, to let them know of the situation.
Do what you need to, but do not take too long.
She nods, and I will I'll go back the way tunnel about a good 10 minutes until I get a good signal.
Okay. Well, that's certainly not going to be an easy feat here. I'm actually going to ask you to roll a. I'll tell you what. I think that I'll let you make the assist roll on this because it's going to be Crichton who's going to be trying to pick this up, and he is much better
Sure.
at the
Also,
communication.
challenge drive. Nope, I don't get it back. All right.
Okay, so give me a control and engineering roll as you try to open a channel to the Aegis from your communicator.
Control and engineering. Well, that's thankfully a 12 total. So, cool. I do not have anything for that.
Yep.
Do you mind if I get a die, you guys, or use momentum?
It would actually be a.
Oh no, I can't because I'm assisting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we give? Well, just roll. There we go. That ain't bad. 2.
Okay. So I'm going to see if the ship can assist as well.
Yeah.
Good ship. Well done.
Okay. Yeah. With the combined with the combined 3 successes there, I think that would be enough for a very patchy channel. You get a prolonged bit of static as you try to get reception, but there is the beginnings of crackly audio that resemble a voice. We'll move the set up to the bridge of the Aegis, where that audio comes through more clearly. Specifically, with Crichton on the bridge. Please signal again. Please signal again, away team. This is the Aegis. Yes.
Sharp to Aegis. Can you hear me, Crichton?
Stand by, Captain. Lieutenant, I have the captain on audio here. It's very faint, but I am diverting. I am trying to put more power into the transceiver.
Okay. Do what you need to establish communications.
think I've got it here. Relaying signal through speakers, sir. And with that, for our purposes, the audio will be a little crackly, a little bit staticky, even though it will obviously come in clear. I haven't worked out all the fun effects to take this to the next level, but yeah. Colonel Sharp, go ahead.
We've encountered the local aliens here in the world. It appears as though the people ahead of us seem to be of Vulcan. They are supplying weapons and other technologies to people that they can collaborate with. Have you noticed anybody parked along with you, Lieutenant?
Been no signs so far.
All right. If it comes down to it, is there any way you can intercept any? Can you detect any shuttles? Can our sensors detect any traffic between the moon and where you're parked, or do you need to step out of the field?
I'll look to our science officer, Gwen Stewart.
Oh, hey, she gets activated.
Yep. I'll just say Stewart kind of gives you that waving hand symbol to suggest that it's a bit iffy. You would have earlier heard from her that where you are parked in near the gas giant's rings is effectively screening you from detection in case anyone comes back into orbit. However, it is also making it more difficult in order to get like any sort of early warning. You can at least say it doesn't look like there are any ships that are orbiting the gas giant at this point, but that could simply mean that perhaps the ship has any ships that were here may have simply went into another part of the corridor, perhaps heading out of the system, or maybe they are up to some other operation. It's possible to conduct scans, but it's very difficult right now.
From our present position orbiting the gas giant, it's given us it decreases our chance of being detected by any other ship in the system, but it makes our own scans more difficult. If we were to move away from the gas giant, we would have a better chance at finding anything incoming or outgoing. I can at least confirm there's nothing in orbit of the gas giant, though.
All right, Lieutenant, I give you full discretion on whether to peek outside to do that scan or to remain parked. I want your availability, though, as a priority overall.
Of course.
She thinks for a moment.
I
would also like... yes?
Vulcans don't seem to be the type to share technology so readily.
Not very often, but certainly they can find logical loopholes, as I've come to understand.
Yes. I suppose so.
But certainly keep an eye, just in case other individuals are likely just trying to screen and pose as Vulcans. There's another thing. I want yourself and Romanov and any other science department figure out ways of closing off the corridor as soon as we leave without harming the Khaleesi here.
Closing off the corridor. Okay, I'll put
We've
together a think tank on that.
We have run into a few signals suggesting of some sort of machinery keeping the corridor open. But it seems like, as I already stated, that people have been exploiting the Khaleesi in unfavorable manners.
Okay. I'll see what we can come up with.
I'll communicate back in about another 4 hours. If I do not communicate back, give another 2 hours time before doing whatever means you need to.
The end of the next episode. Gotcha.
Captain out. Yep. That's it.
Okay. The audio line closes, and find yourself with the disturbing notion, Shira, that suddenly you are very much in charge on a ship, or on an Earth ship, with your only other likely companion being a Vulcan one.
Lovely. Lovely. Good.
Just like home.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Ejects are all into space.
Yep. Crichton does, as he closes the line, sir, I can confirm we do have the probe ready, including with the communication frequencies if it comes to it.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Is Romanoff on the bridge currently?
If she wants to be in the scene, because by this time you've finished up the work on the communication buoy, you could be coming back onto the bridge.
I'd be on the bridge because I'd want to be. Yeah, I've got the good engineering station up there, and it allows me to kind of watch what's going on. So yeah, I'm on the bridge.
Okay. Right. Romanoff, Stewart, and I guess anyone else in the science team. We need to find out a way of collapsing this this passageway that we came through in the system. All that planetary debris.
Okay.
Now, if
We'll start working on it.
if the captain's right and that there's some kind of machinery at work keeping that passage open, perhaps there's a way we can interfere with that machinery. But I guess we would need to find a piece of that equipment.
Yeah, we would. And we need to see how it works to counter it.
Okay.
We did take scans of it, though, didn't we, out of character?
Not of the machinery.
Yeah, this is the first that you are hearing of any sort of machinery that would be keeping the pathway or the.
I thought we heard some like power sources or something like that along the corridor. Or was that my imagination?
You detected a power source which suggested another ship was in the zone.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the freaking tunnel itself.
Okay, so like misunderstanding. Okay.
Yeah, that was misunderstanding. So I wouldn't have said that. Just more or less find a way to close the corridor.
Next that bit. Okay, right.
Yeah, just try to find a way to closing the corridor.
Okay, so maybe we can tow some planetary debris into that passageway and just blow it apart so it becomes littered again. But perhaps also study how it's been created, this passage.
There's also... This question gets me ejected into space. But since this is a planetary system, what does prevent anyone from just going above the disk and avoiding all the debris and shit?
Well, the debris...
We always ignore in Star Trek that it's three-dimensional, but it occurred to me.
No, that's fine. The actual, like... so the corridor itself burrows through that, which would seem a bit impractical as far as like getting to the planet, but the debris is actually layered in such a way that traversing either like the dorsal or ventral parts of the system, trying to get through the midsection, like it is as dense, if not more so, trying to go over or under it, because of how the debris is arranged. Everything getting thrown around here and the gravitational influence of the gas giant does actually make it so that it is even a bit more difficult to navigate through the like the area around this planet. It's kind of stirring up the pot and dominating gravity in such a way that, or yeah, clearing the neighborhood as NASA would put it, in such a way that it's actually creating a bit more of a thicket or shell around it. So you have some objects that are drawn in from orbit. You have just general like objects that it's moving through and everything that's hurtling around the system. So it's not
Being a problem for everyone.
yeah, yeah. There are places where you can go like over or under and be able to enter in. There was actually like closer to the star itself, or like in the inner system. There were places where you could enter the corridor. That's actually how Aegis got in the first place. And there might be a few other clear patches, but things that don't have access to this area. It seems like the main benefit of being in the corridor or having that is specifically access to this gas giant and the orbiting moons.
Okay, cool.
So fair question. No spacing Soral today.
We will
Okay.
find another reason.
Tomorrow, spacing Sorrel tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Put it on the to-do list.
So I guess it's better to conceive of it more of as a tunnel than a passage.
Yes, you could think of it that way.
All right. So yeah, I would say, okay. Back to Romanov and Stewart. Try to look into ways of closing this down, whether it's just simply blowing stuff up inside the passage, or doing something more scientific, I guess.
The ensign at Tactical says, I will say we do have very limited well, we've got warheads about, and we could maybe create a few obstructions in different places, but we don't have anything too terribly large. Not all the material is going to be small enough or sufficiently thin that our explosives would completely do the trick. Likewise, we could try to tow things, but the grapplers can only take so much.
I guess I'll play
Oh,
Stewart.
we could land a team on a comet, drill down to the center of it, put a nuke there, and blow it up from the inside.
I don't. That's not how things work.
No,
It's the most sensible
Ensign
thing
Willis
I've ever heard.
disagrees.
Yes. He's already assembled a crew.
Yep. And has
But-
Aerosmith with the soundtrack.
But perhaps we don't need an explosive, but more of just creating density, sir.
I mean,
It's a proto system. There's a lot of debris around things anyways, and it's magnified by the presence of gravity wells. If we turn an asteroid and increase the density on it, or increase the gravimetric field around it, it could create the debris field itself, pull things out the tunnel inward.
Sounds an interesting proposal.
It kind of would. I do feel kind of guilty though, because it would unnaturally create a planetoid in a few million years, and I was kind of the preference of letting such places kind of take their own sort of way of things, but she just gives a shrug.
If it's any comfort, that's in a few million years.
It is also possible that something would occur naturally anyway, Ensign. And then turning to you, Shira, there is also to consider the occasional fixed star the stellar winds from the fixed star at Fomalhaut's center. The radioactivity does intermittently excite the particles in this region, and thus also cause some displacement of some of the asteroids and other materials there. I suppose we could always work that to our advantage, although that would require, well, a little more encouragement, I suppose.
Use the solar winds. Good work. Right, there's some good ideas. Let's see about getting those into some kind of practice. So basically, all science team can try to focus on this. Romov, you can provide engineering support, because presumably at some point they'll want to turn theory into practice.
Stuart just nod. I'll start looking things up and see what works best. So what kind of roll do I make with that, GM?
Let's see here.
Whether creating a gravity well, a ever-expanding gravity well, or making the sun puke a little.
Preferably without destroying the very much inhabited planet.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I feel like we're rearranging the solar system has like small hiccups.
We'll have left and sealed the door behind us. What happens behind that door from then on, none of our problem.
I think that in general, monkeying around with the star system's composition would entail a reason plus science roll, and I think that it would be. I would run it at a difficulty 3, assisted by the ship's. Let's call this engineering and computers, actually.
Because we don't need to destroy the entire tunnel, just a small portion of it.
Yeah.
We just need to close it. We just need to close it off.
Are we the reason for Prime Directive?
Maybe.
I mean, whoever listens to actual Prime Directive outside of unless you want to lecture somebody about the Prime Directive.
God damn it, Captain Sharp! This is a PR disaster.
Canonically, I think the Prime Directive doesn't exist anyway for another 20 years.
If that, yeah.
I would like to make Romanov would like to make a rule to tackle this thing. I have reverse engineering, so once I'm looking at something, I might be able to figure out how to, really deconstruct it. Would that be applicable?
That could work. I guess if you wanted to roll, I suppose reason and engineering would come into play. Although, since we're just talking about simulating we are just talking about simulating what processes would work. I think that an assist might make a little more sense to start with.
Okay, that works.
So,
One die, right?
Also, as a player comment, there might very well be something to still figure out in the cave system that will nudge that decision in one direction or another, because clearly there has been something
even the captain said just look into it, not do it, just look into it.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're not going to implement it right now. I mean,
Shira calls back. So we moved the planetoid unit. What?
It's to do on our way out.
Yeah.
Captain, we ruled a complication and there is now a 10-kilometer asteroid headed for the moon.
Well, somebody go get a mining crew.
It's okay.
Right.
We have people. Ensign Willis from the oil drilling department is all set.
I told
All right,
them not to give that to the Americans.
So
truly-
reason and science, right?
Yep, reason plus science, assisted by reason and engineering from Romanov, and the ship may also assist with computers and science. Actually,
Cool.
computers
Okay,
and
I'm
engineering,
rolling
I
one
think.
die. I'm rolling one die to assist, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And I spend momentum to get a third die. I added a focus called Stellar Atmospheric Science.
Okay.
And let's go. Ooh, yes.
So
Very
4
nice.
successes coming off of Steward, 1 from Romanov. If somebody wants to roll for the ship, then that'll give us just a sense of how much floating momentum that we have on the board.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll for the ship right now. What's the combo again?
I think we decided computers and engineering for this one.
Computers, engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and here we go.
Okay. Uh,
And that was one die, correct?
yes. It just for some reason it didn't take in the ship's department, but it works anyway. You rolled a 6, which was enough. Would have succeeded still. I did, in fact. So that is a total of 6 successes on the board, meaning that you refill the pool for 1, and you also have 5 floating right now. So
That I do.
you have the option to obtain information, um, create advantages, all sorts of other stuff here before the scene is out. That being said, from what as time elapses, what you are going to gather as the two of you start working it out, it would be possible to either influence a gravimetric field in an asteroid or to influence the star into creating the stellar wind. Like, both are viable, but not without some degree of cost or I'll say more difficulty than complication, although there's definitely risk of that. Either way, the Aegis is, this is a very low-tech era
Right.
in Trek. Not that your characters would have any idea of what you are missing out on, but it is such that the only way that you could conceivably influence either an asteroid or a star would be a fairly high energy sustained beam from the main deflector.
It's always the deflector.
Yep.
Um,
You could rig it in such a way to either basically technobabble your way into influencing the gravimetric field or disrupting that in such a way, or perhaps exciting stellar particles in such a way that when the next fixed star wind comes out, it's more substantial. In the latter case, definitely be prepared to run like hell for that one. Or otherwise, just make sure that you are in a relatively clear area, lest you be blown yourself um, into the debris. But it's like those would be viable. It will just take like some expenditure of power and use of prolonged use of the deflector. Uh, there are also, of course, long-term risks. You would be, in one case at least, reshaping potentially the solar system over a long enough time scale. There's also no way to fully predict how the asteroids will eventually impact the planet and its moons in this system. It would likely close off a good bit of the corridor, however.
but it could also fling a lot more asteroids to the edges of the new planetoid would probably fling more towards the gas giant and thus the moon.
Yeah, sadly, it's not something you can rule out. It's just like you have a very simple tool relative to this. Or like you want a scalpel, you only have a meat axe.
Neither cases are good,
Yeah.
Captain. She says, looking over to the lieutenant. We could use the deflector to create more energy within the elements of a moon or of a asteroid to make it heavier and put into a spin to create a planetoid, but it would be like trying to, well, in both cases, and even with the putting a positronic beam into the sun to force it to create a solar wind would be like trying to naturally and uh, surgically create a avalanche and trying to avoid a town. It could happen, sir, but not without some considerable risks.
Might hit the town. Okay. I suggest run simulations. We've got time until the captain wants us to report in. Run some simulations on it. Let's look at ways we can minimize the risk. Then we can present options to the captain, and she'll make the call on whether we go ahead and use these.
Shoulders nod. I'll start working on simulations.
I mean, maybe we'll also learn something more about what kind of solar engineering happened here, if it did.
Stuart, amidst this, I am also going to ask you for one more reason and science roll, assisted this time by the ship's sensors and science. Difficulty 4. I should say because of the scene traits in effect that is already reflecting the what little help your sensors can provide you in this case, or the advanced sensor talent, just because this is like so exceptionally difficult to scan in this system.
Okay, I'm going to spend.
You do have like
Spend
5
stuff.
floating momentum right
Yeah,
now.
I'm gonna
Ooh,
spend
that's-
4 momentum to get 4 dice.
It would actually, yeah, it would be 3 momentum to get you up to a total of 4, because it's 1 for the first one and then 2 for the
2
second
for the other one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
could
3.
you could go a full 5 if you wanted to throw a threat in there, or just
No,
Spend
we still
regular
have 10
momentum.
threat. We don't need the extra threat
yeah.
here.
You are full on momentum too, so I see that one of them actually hasn't made it back to the pool, so you could just use all of what you got from the last task in order to give yourself the full 5 d20s.
Okay, would you say this is a strenuous situation for this roll?
I mean, potentially, it's like you are having to operate your sensors in quite a soup here, so it's very difficult.
Okay, I would like to use my value. Okay, stop yelling at me.
She could be
to get
talking to the computer.
Yeah. And get 5 dice. Yeah, we'll keep it down to 5. So get full 5 dice. Any of my focuses: xenoanthropology, xenobotany, atmospheric science, stellar atmospheric science.
I'll allow that last one to apply here.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
And just
All
to
the
check, when
ones.
you tapped the value, that was to give you an automatic critical success.
Yes.
Okay, so that is 5 from just the roll there, and then another 2 for an automatic critical success. And yes, it is a wonderful, wonderful value. Also, I missed to redeem posture check. Yes, I also incidentally stretched there. So,
Hydrate too.
oh yeah, that I should do.
I refuse.
More cider.
It's orange juice today for me. Okay. Through the dust and debris, you and Patel before you had a sensor tap open such that you were trying to pick up anything possible in this system. to give you a sense of what might be out there. It's partly been helping you try to get a sense of what the corridor looked like in terms of proceeding through the system. At the very far end, on the outer elements of the planetary disk, there is a pulse on the sensor scan which manages to just perfectly ring through with the concentration of these sensors and your own efforts to try and refine what telemetry you are taking in. There is an ionic discharge, something that would suggest possibly an impulse turn.
She'll just. I was already running simulations, and as a beat her, she's like, "What? No, I'm busy." Captain.
Yep.
There's an impulse signal at the edges of our sensor range.
Send it through to Con and Tactical.
Connolly looks it over here. If I had to guess, Lieutenant, that'd probably be somebody bringing an about face. Probably moving in at a fair impulse speed. Not that I wouldn't take it that fast going through the corridor, but then I haven't been. This is our first time through it. We did know that our possible company were likely. I mean, that was the direction they were traveling, so it's possible they're coming back around, sir.
We're not actually going to try to intercept them or anything, right? I mean, we're a research vessel.
Don't know their motives when we currently don't know the kind of ship. What is there anything you can tell us, Conley, about what type of ship it might have been?
Well, if we're okay spending one momentum to obtain the information.
Sure, we have tons. Yeah, let's go
yeah,
for
so
it.
I think we can donate from the momentum. Yes.
I'd say that power output of that type of turn, I'd put it at least a scale 3 vessel like our own, but I wouldn't rule out something bigger.
We're really not going to intercept this ship, right, sir?
Do what we must. That ship is got hostile intentions towards Captain. Well, they might have hostile intentions towards anyone down on that planet who isn't a local. And if it is a Vulcan vessel, well, Earth and Vulcan have got treaties and stuff which govern them, so they won't fire on us.
Stewart just swallows.
Romanoff,
Mm-hmm.
this is a Vulcan ship. She'll go over to Romanoff for a moment to talk quietly. If this is a Vulcan ship, if we have to make contact with them seeing me in charge, that's not going to go well.
Agreed.
So, what
I'll do
I
the
think
contact.
yes, I'll stay out of the camera, and you take the seat.
Yeah, the seat's got a control for the camera. I'll keep you off. But my instincts, I don't think we're dealing with, your average Vulcan, so to speak.
It might not be regular Vulcans. You're right. It might be another faction.
There's
Out of
clearly
character. Out of character. You're while you are Andorian, you're still representing Starfleet. You're still Ring Earth. You're protected.
Go away. Get out of my head, voice of sharp.
I just wish Soral was back on the ship because just the implication that he could be in the discussion would be hilarious.
Yeah, I would suggest don't agree to anything. You can stall by just saying you'll need to consult with Captain.
Let's make sure our story is solid. If we out of character, the away team informed us that there were Vulcans interfering down there, right?
There were likely Vulcans supplying or arming the locals. Yes.
Okay, so these are Vulcans who are arming the locals. So we don't want to give away what we're here for, right?
We're just on a survey mission. We found this interesting system with the
survey.
and
Yeah,
everything.
that's the simplest answer. We're on a survey mission. I'm not even going to let them know that Flag is off the ship. That would be bad news too if these guys are kind of edgy.
Yes.
My experience with Edge Runner Vulcans, there are some out there who they are very far away from, the Vulcan belief systems.
But worst comes to worst, just think to yourself, what would Captain Sharp do? Unless, of course, the answer is marry a pirate. Do not marry a pirate.
No marrying
Seduce the Vulcan
pirate.
captain.
If they come around, I still think you should have the ship tactically ready.
Yes.
Let's have as much up our sleeve as possible. And we're on a survey mission. And how you doing? That's the approach I'll take.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable.
I'm not going to use any of my knowledge of Vulcan culture because we don't know whether these people even appreciate that or not. As culture stands, which is certainly a entirely different subject. So yeah, okay. I'll do that.
She'll go over to Conley. Going through that passage, that's a very safe route in and out of the system, yes?
Certainly. Probably still safest at thrusters, but at impulse speeds, we could probably manage that as well. I prefer to be a little more acquainted with it. I would also say that when it's still, at least by our long-range sensor records that we've taken from before, and the chronometer that we're establishing, there is a risk that even parts of the corridor could become hazardous when the stellar wind stirs up objects in the system. So there's always the chance of something going wrong there.
Okay. Would it be, just in case things really go wrong and we have to go through the passage while possibly being pursued, would an extra pair of hands here to help you navigate help?
Oh, I've got my navigator beside me, so I think that I'd be all covered there.
Yes, just will the navigator do any assisting on any dice rolls we may have to make?
Oh yeah, Sullivan will probably have some rolls here. We could even make sure the sheet's open to everyone so that they could roll if they needed it.
Good. All right.
Maybe one day we'll have a navigator supporting a character. Wouldn't that be a thing? Anyway.
Okay then, right. For orders, let's get about duty then.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, with that, you will take your position and begin making preparations both to possibly reshape the corridor itself and to prepare yourselves for a possible encounter with a Vulcan ship. For the moment here, we are going to go back down to the surface just to do a little bit of theater of the mind work as the away team proceeds through the tunnel system down in Fomalhaut. Um, if you want to state that there were any last minute things that you did before setting off, I am prepared to allow for that, but otherwise, as soon as everyone was capable of moving, and once the captain got back from her conversation with the Aegis, the idea would have been to start getting you moving along the trail. So before that happens, anything anyone want to say that they did beforehand?
I got nothing.
Same.
All right. Well, Ben, Felix, if either of you have anything you want to chime in with as far as things your characters would have done beforehand, likewise, Brian, if there's anything for more, then you can just let me know. Otherwise, I think that when the commercial break comes back, the 8 of you are very carefully traversing a very thin path. What?
Actually,
Yes.
now I think about it. Sorry. Could Danny run some quick tests on the stuff he got given, the liquids,
Oh,
medicines?
absolutely. I will just go ahead and give you that. With the sensor analysis, you're able to work it out in part from what Sharp has given you. You've been given a distilled version of the scorpion venom. You would guess that the locals host it. It is, or rather, they harvest it from these scorpions and take some further steps to process it. But it seems as though it's meant to basically have some medicinal qualities. It could actually be quite versatile with the proper mixture. You notice that they do things with different, some of the different plant life and have other ways to process it. You could probably work this in with a few reagents, even things that you carry, to give you something specially modified or create a unique advantage. So if you just want to add that to your character's inventory, you have a bottle of scorpion vial, which I will say for any sort of stimulant or basically any sort of medical compound you want to synthesize on the fly. I'll allow you to. I think that honestly, the most interesting way to apply this is that I could give you a one-time reduction if in the cost for someone to avoid an injury or something like that, or maybe make it easier to heal or otherwise, not be affected by it, something of the sort.
Okay. Yeah, basically just however I can argue using it when it comes up.
Yeah, just general sort of advantage. We'll work out these specifics later, and you can by all means make an argument for it.
Yep, thank you.
Sure thing. So, since you set off, you've set up on what was a relatively darker part of the trail. There's still some reflective ambient light, but you are much more dependent now upon flashlights. The path has gotten a bit more claustrophobic through a particular phase where you've had to kind of the walls and ceilings have come considerably lower. It's more comfortable for you to go single file, though you might be capable of going it 2 abreast through this. But it's basically a bit of a slog as dirt and stone are pressed in by your boots walking through the way. Lasties will say, some of these routes are not easy to travel, and will still require some climbing in order to make their way there, but they are quicker they will be quickest for us. And certainly, your group seems in fit state enough, particularly if you can still use your fingers there.
What is it about my fingers? I've mentioned all once, she says with a chuckle. I'm fine now. Thank you.
Not everyone is such a lightweight.
She got to laugh a little bit at that. I'll try to toughen it up a little bit.
The chamber's going to open out a bit after maybe like 15, 20 minutes of walking through this sort of just like winding maze of caves. All of you following Closty's path as much as possible. And as the chamber opens up, he's going to like basically gesture in the general direction of what appears to be a much larger sort of cavernous opening that would effectively be like just a cliff wall, but just jutting out from it a little bit is a very small sort of path that if you press yourself like against the wall, then you could probably navigate. This would be definitely like sliding your feet along it in order to get there. This is our the next leg here. He looks at Patel and the big boxy scanner that he's still probably got somewhere. You are not going to be able to bring that. Or
Does my spelunking equipment help me carry this in any way?
You
that I brought with me?
You might be able to rig it up in such a way, and indeed, I imagine there are harnesses that would allow you to link everyone together, so as to have the extra support. But this is more like it'll have to go on a backpack, and you'll probably have to press yourself like facing the wall as opposed to being out from it, which might make sense anyway if you want to be able to grasp onto things. So I'd be willing to allow that advantage if you so wished.
Yeah, I'd want to go with that because I don't want to leave behind the technology too because they might take it.
Yep. So that being the case, I'm going to say that for the spelunking, there will be a check or two for climbing or scaling the parts of the path here. You will all have all of you will have basically like when you conduct your checks, if anybody like fails the check or scores a complication, then so long as at least like two of you, as long as at least 2 or 3 of you succeed, I'd be willing to allow you to buy off that complication at reduced cost so that you aren't troubled, or basically to reflect that the group is supporting you. Would that sound fair?
Yeah.
All right. So you begin linking up. Natala and Sloan will do so. Fen is going to refuse any use of the gear. Oh, rest assured, this isn't any particular issue for me, but I will walk across with you, but I don't need it per se. It might even be a hindrance to me.
Certainly, I am happy at your assurance, Doctor. She'll just look over to the rest of the crew to make sure everybody else is properly suited up. Out of character, so Lambeth patched me up. Do I lose any stress from that?
Yeah, I'm going to say that anyone who had taken some stress from their previous encounters, that is now gone, and you are like everyone is fresh once more, basically.
Cool. Just want to double check on that. All right.
Okay. So, your group begins to traverse the path. I'm going to ask everybody just to give me one fitness check as they scale along the wall. We're going to call this a fitness and security roll. And the difficulty on this will just be 1. So Plastis will take the first roll.
Can I argue that my geology focus would mean that I've done this before and I'm familiar with how this goes?
Absolutely, and you could roll science in its place. Saral, I'd
Gladly.
be prepared to allow you to do the same, if only so that you have the opportunity to roll some.
Can I argue my space-based navigation just for the internals of ships, so I know what gives way, what kind of would hold my grip, so on and so forth?
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, even if I had rolled science, still no successes.
Yeah, this is not the easiest path for you, Saral. We will evaluate this in a moment. Let's see. Just doing Finn and Natala here as well. Okay, so wait, that's fitness rather than security. Doesn't make much difference there, but okay. So all of you rope up together. Yeah, I figured that was Moro's role. Ben, if you could actually also throw in a fitness and security here. The lot of you, mostly like interlinked by the gear, the spelunking equipment, begin your slow traversal across the underground cliff face. It is very slow work as you try to carefully shuffle along and finding handholds essentially where you can. Plasdes functions as the leader for this, so he will give you like the occasional cue so far as where to grab, and I imagine that it's very much sort of people playing copycat. As you're rounding one corner, Saral, you find that your attempt to gain a grasp on that, it actually doesn't quite cue properly, and like a bit of rock actually gives way and slips out of your hand. But you have you would have the claws of Tenkayat Fen flattened against your back, giving you just a little bit of support. It's like, I suppose your Vulcan vision's a little more used to the brighter lights of outside and less so to the dark.
Well, could also take up more climbing in my free time, I suppose. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Is there a problem, gentlemen?
Oh, no, we're quite all right back here. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, most of you are very able to scale the wall. Patel, Lambeth, and Mora are among those doing the best. Likewise, um, let's see, I think Fen and Sloan are taking it pretty easily. Actually, Natala would be doing well because she is particularly skilled at spelunking, and I just forgot to open up a focus there. But yeah, the near dozen of you are able to slowly but steadily traverse this cliff face. Uh, While you have some minimal ambient light from the surroundings, it is much less so, or you're much more reliant on the flashlights which you have brought with you. They do not portend how deep the chasm below opens up, nor do they give you a good sense of how high up the cliff face runs. You just have the sense that this is a sort of great yawning area that this wall would seem to mount against. That after some minutes of careful climbing or careful shuffling, the ledge that you are on begins to open up a bit more, such to where you can more safely traverse the ground, and Plastis will set up for a moment against one of the wall as it begins to curve in a manner kind of cutting to the left. We'll say that this wall was kind of running on the wall you're on. Basically, the route you traversed, it was on the right side. The cliff face to the left kind of opened up into the chasm, and now the wall is starting to turn itself to where it is now like running perpendicular to the path that you were on. Plastis will say, "From here, it is a climb. We will need to scale this. We will need to scale this segment here, and passage will open up. Take what time you need to prepare yourselves, for this will be itself quite arduous."
How often has this passage been taken by your people?
It is one we know and occasionally test, but we do not use it frequently. Approaching Dragon Settlement, even in relative secret, can be dangerous.
Patel, Sorrel, could you give a scan really quickly to see if there's any sensors about that we need to be aware of?
Can do.
Certainly.
All right. If one of you wants to take lead and the other perform an assist roll, I will call this reason and science here.
Do we want to huddle around my tricorder, Sorrel? Ooh.
Thankfully, we have a lot of momentum. We still have full 6. So let's spend 2 of that.
Okay. For 2 successes, and we've bought off the complication there, I will say that there's nothing that the readout is giving you. However, the materials in this area are very dense and are running, making any sensor scan extremely difficult.
I mean, it counts for them as well, but
Indeed.
maybe they have different approach.
Yeah. I will give you, there are indications of a, just a little ways through the rock, there are signs of faint EM readings and possibly some heat signatures, which would very much suggest, technology at work, geothermal powering perhaps, given what you've seen before, and on much larger scale than what you saw in the village.
For your safety, should we take the lead? She's just looking over to her guide, just pointing the direction. I'll start.
I will get you up the wall, and I will show you this place. From there, if you do not want me present, then I will avoid doing so, but I will at least get you as much as I can safely perform. It is my duty as far as our agreement goes.
She just nods. Thank you. Everyone else ready?
Ready as we can be, I suppose.
Plastis is going to perform one final check, not of anything that he would use to assist him to climb here, but instead his primitive ballistic style weapon. Clicking through a few latches and otherwise checking a few elements, other parts of the weapon. You will want to make sure these are as ready as your climbing gear.
She'll just nod. Mara, you take the rear. Mora, you'll take rear. I'll take lead.
Got it.
All right. And with that, Plastis will shoulder his weapon and or pull it back over. He's got sort of basically a strap to sort of hang that on, and he will begin to ascend up the wall, with Sharp and the others beginning to come up behind. And I think that is where we are going to cap off today's session, as the crew nears the base of General Kragan and the rumored place of record. And so this is where we will leave off for the recording. For those of you that enjoyed today, I hope that you can come and join us live if you were watching from the archive. We are on once again every 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. All links and anything relevant there are in the panels below. So, yeah, thank you for stopping by.